Today we are in story number 287. And we're looking at the new section here, which is the resurrection of Jesus. And so we see now the culmination. We've seen the life, we've seen the death, and we've seen the burial. And we're about to see the resurrection now. And this is the aspect that we look forward to, because this is the renewal. The problem, the issue has been addressed, described, it has been identified, and it has been paid for. And so now going forth the renewal. So with the problem being addressed, identified, and paid for, we now are prepared for the renewal. And Jesus is the first fruits. He's the first one that's going to come with that renewal. His renewal is going to be great and significant, and more significant than even our renewal. Our renewal is from sin to sinlessness, from corruption to incorruption. Jesus was never corrupt, so he don't have to make that transition.
Right.
He was always righteous.
Amen.
His renewal is his reuniting with the Father, because while he was not corrupt and had no sin, he took sin upon himself. He dove into sin to save us.
Amen.
All right. When a person is drowning and a person that knows how to swim goes into the water to save him, he has to dive in the water with him. See, sometimes somebody's drowning, you be like, okay, kick your feet. Kick your feet. You're trying to give them instructions. Mm-hmm. You can't give them instructions. So you have to get in there with them. As what these lifeguards do, they get in the water with them, and then they are able to bring them out. Now, when you get in the water with them, both individuals are what? Wet. But one is wet, but the wetness doesn't affect them because they have the ability to do what? To swim. Not only swim for themselves, but to be able to swim and carry what? Other people. Jesus jumped into sin to save us.
Amen.
But he knew how to navigate in sin to where sin would not pull him down and kill him. To the point that where they couldn't kill him. Jesus said, I have to do what? I have to lay my life down. So that's the beauty of what Jesus did for us. He paid for our sin. He dove in, he saved us, and now he's bringing us out. But the thing is, he's bringing us out not the way we were. He's bringing us out improved, new, better. All right? And so that's the beauty of it. And we're ever being renewed, even while we are yet alive in our natural body. The scripture lets us know that when we die, that to die is not just to not exist, but when you die, you then go to be with the Lord.
Amen.
All right, and so there's an aspect of us recognizing to be if we're separated from the body, we're present with the Lord, and so that's an important aspect of our renewal. All right, so let's take a listen here to story 287, and let's look at the resurrection and the second earthquake.
Section 19, The Resurrection of Jesus. Story 287, The Resurrection and the Second Earthquake. And behold, a severe earthquake had occurred, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven, and came and rolled away the stone from the door, and sat on it. And his appearance was like lightning, and his garment was as white as snow. And the guards shook for fear of him, and became like dead men. And the tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they entered the holy city, and appeared to many.
All right. Now here we see this wonderful story here of the resurrection that I think sometimes we don't talk enough about this. And I think it's important to understand what we are seeing here. When Jesus went into, when Jesus died, And his body was carried away and went into the what? Into the tomb. And they prepared it with spices and so forth, as we saw on last time. But his spirit, remember he said, Father, into thy hands I commend my what? Spirit. So his spirit went where? Well, his spirit went where all spirits went at that particular time. They went to what's called Abraham's bosom, or to paradise.
A place.
And it was a place that was described in the story that Jesus gave about the rich man and Lazarus. And it said that when the Lazarus died, he was carried to where? Abraham's bosom, which is paradise. Is a place it was a holding place for all those that had died. But the rich man, because of his evil ways, when he died, he lifted up his eyes in hell. So he was in a similar state, but in a different place. And so he prayed and he asked Abraham that Lazarus would come and dip his hand in water to cool his tongue. And he said, no, there's a gulf set between us. And so people from this side can't go to you, and you from that side can't come to us. And I remember he said, well, then send someone to tell my brothers, because I got people that are just like me out there that need to know about this. And he said, and Abraham said, he has the law and he has Moses. If he won't hear them, neither will they hear anyone, though he come back from the dead. And so Jesus is going to come back from the dead, and that's going to prove that statement there, because there are still people that ain't going to hear him. But the point being, Jesus went there, and those individuals that were there that believed in Jesus believed in his future coming. They had faith that God would send a Messiah to deliver us. And that's why they had hope. And remember what Jesus said to the thief on the cross. He said, today you will be with me where? In paradise. He didn't say in heaven.
Right.
He said in paradise. And that's where they went. So that's where Jesus went. He went to paradise. And he went there and he liberated all of those individuals that were held there, because sin, it captives. You become a captive, and though you were not tormented because you believed and trusted in the righteousness of Christ, you were still held. To what degree, I can't say. I don't know. I've never been there. But the scripture tells us that there was a place where they knew that wasn't their permanent dwelling. And that's where Jesus went. That's where Jesus told the thief on the cross that he was going to go. Mm-hmm. And he said, then I'm going to go there, and I'll see you there. Mm-hmm. You're going to be there with me.
Mm-hmm. In paradise.
In paradise. But then Jesus liberated all of those. And all those individuals came out. And so when we see here, as we look at this story, it says on the next day after the preparation, no, I'm reading the wrong thing. Let me go down to the next one. It says, and behold, a severe earthquake had occurred, for an angel of the Lord descended from where?
From heaven.
From heaven. So he came from heaven and came down and rolled down the what? The stone. From the door and sat upon it. And his appearance was like what? Lightning. That means it was super bright, because that's what righteousness does. Righteousness has no darkness in it. And his garment was white as snow. And the guards shook for fear of him and became like dead men. So the guards did what? They just passed out. Mm-hmm. They went into some kind of comatose sleep. It says, and the tombs were what? Open. See, Jesus's grave was already open, because it said the stone was what?
Rolled away.
So what is these tombs talking about? Those were all the people that believed in Jesus. This was what you would consider a early rapture. They were raptured out of that place. They were taken out. All right? The scripture tells us that's going to happen to us. Mm-hmm. We that are alive and at the coming of the Lord will not prevent those that are asleep. For the Lord shall come with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and the dead in Christ shall what? Rise first. And then we which are alive and remain shall be what? Caught up.
Meet them in the air.
All right? And so it says, and many bodies of the saints who fell asleep were arise. Many bodies of the who? The saints. That means those that believed in Jesus. Like why do we believe? We believe in what Jesus already did. those before Jesus believed and trust God that Jesus would come and do. So they believed that he was going to do it. We believe that he already did it.
Right.
But both get the same result. You get to be delivered. And actually, let me get my Bible out. I'm going to read. I think it's, if my memory holds me correct, I think it's Psalms 24. Let me take a quick look here. It's Psalms 24. Yeah. And so if I look at this, I see the part that I want to talk about is it starts at verse 7.
Okay, Psalms 24.
Yeah.
Okay,
Verse 27.
okay, hold up. This page is so thin.
But actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read the whole song. I'm going to read the whole thing. So it says, the earth is the who? Is the Lord, and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. That lets us know that everything belongs to the Lord. For he has founded it upon the seas and established it upon the floods. Okay, letting us know that the world belongs to the Lord. Earth, land, sea, everything. Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord? Who's going to ascend? Who's going to come up? And who shall stand in the holy place? Who's going to stand before God? Who's going to ascend? He that has clean hands and a pure heart. All right. So who has clean hands and pure heart?
Jesus.
Only Jesus. And does anybody else have clean hands and a pure heart?
No.
Only if you are what? Washed in the blood. Only if you've taken on the what? The righteousness of Christ. I can't stand before God and say, well, God, check out what I did. See, I can't do that. But I can stand before, Lord, I trusted in what Jesus did. Now, if you do that, you're standing with a pure heart. You're standing with clean hands. All right? Who has not lifted up his soul into vanity, nor sworn deceitfully. All right? Only if you have on the righteousness of Christ. He shall receive the blessings from the Lord. Righteousness from who?
The Lord.
From the God of our salvation. This is the generation of them that seek him, that seek his face, O Jacob. Selah. Now this is the part where I wanted to bring out. And he says, lift up your heads, O ye gates. He's talking about the gates of what? The gates of heaven. And be you lifted up, you everlasting doors. What has everlasting doors? Heaven. For the King of glory shall come in. So that means that Jesus is getting ready to go to heaven. But he's not going by himself. Who he's taking with him? Those that had died before. That thief that was on the cross, that was in paradise. Abraham that was there. That poor beggar that was there. Jacob, Isaac, Rachel, all those old patriots, Jeremiah, Isaiah, they all died before Jesus was born. But they were there in paradise. And Jesus is going to take them and he's going to ascend with them and bring them to their heavenly dwelling. So look what he says here. He continues on. And he says, who is the King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty. Why is he strong and mighty? Because he defeated sin and Satan and claimed victory. The Lord strong and mighty. The Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your head, O ye gates, and even lift them up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is the King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory. So he's going to bring in all of these individuals that we see here in this passage here. That these tombs were open, it says, and many bodies of the saints that had fell asleep. Those means that everyone that died before Jesus' payment for sin, including the thief on the cross. Mm-hmm. All right. And if you remember, Jesus died first. The thief on the cross had to have his what? His legs broken. All right. So until the whole process was completed, anyone that died was going to the same place, and Jesus was able to resurrect all of those. And look at what it says: and many of the bodies of the saints who fell asleep arise, and coming out of the what? Coming out of the tombs after his resurrection. You see that? So after Jesus' resurrection, they were also what? Resurrected. They entered into the holy city and appeared to who? To men. So these people that were dead, they were resurrected, but they didn't go where? Straight into heaven. They were there on earth for a period of time and appeared and showed themselves. So imagine that. You know, you got Abraham and Jeremiah and Moses. Remember, Moses wasn't supposed to go into the promised land. He's there that time. He's walking around now. But we saw Moses even before that, because we saw Moses at the what? The mountain of transfiguration, where him and Elijah were there together. All right, so we see this wonderful aspect here of these individuals that were risen and then seen, and then going up to be with the Lord in heaven. It's a miraculous thing. It's something that I can't add a whole lot of highlight and detail to, other than what the scripture says. These individuals were raised, and they were raised after the resurrection of Jesus. These were all the old patriarchs. John the Baptist, remember John the Baptist was put to death. All right? All of them going up now and showing themselves. I can imagine John the Baptist going to show himself to his family. You know, and so we see this miraculous situation here that Matthew talks about, and it's interesting to know that there was hope for all those that believed even before. All right, and that's something that we can keep in mind, and just imagine that how wonderful that must have been for all of those that were trusting in Jesus to actually be able to witness the resurrection and the coming of Jesus into the place of paradise, to release them and to bring them up into heaven, and watch him open up those everlasting doors and those everlasting gates. All right, we're going to just leave that there. There's a lot we could dwell on and talk about, but I think you get the point. All right, so let's move on to story 288. The women approached the tomb. Let's take a listen to that.
Story 288. The women approached the tomb. Now after the Sabbath was over, on the first day of the week, and very early, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, the mother of James and Salome, came to the tomb to look at the grave, bringing the spices which they had prepared, that they might come and anoint him. And certain others were with them. And they were saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance of the tomb?" When the sun had risen, as it began to be early dawn, and looking up, they saw the stone had been rolled back from the tomb, although it was extremely large. And so Mary Magdalene ran, and came to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken away the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they have laid him."
All right. So now we look at this portion here, and this is an important piece to keep in mind. This is the next day. Look at what it says. It says, now after the what? Sabbath was over, on the first day of the week. What's the first day of the week? Sunday. Okay. So on the first day of the week, Sunday. Some people say, well, why do y'all people worship on Sunday? Well, this is one of the reasons why. Because that's the day that we discovered that Jesus had already what? Risen. Right? That's why people a lot of time worship on Sunday. Not because we think this is the Sabbath day. Sunday's not the Sabbath day. The Sabbath day is what? Saturday. Okay. So it's important to keep in mind. And there's a lot I can dwell on that, but we'll let that go. I think it's suffice to keep that simple. Well, we know what the first day of the week is. It's Sunday. That's the day Jesus resurrected. Sabbath day is Saturday. All right. And those two should not be confused with each other. All right. But then he goes and says, and so very early in the morning, it was still dark. Mary Magdalene, it's important to keep in mind who this is and what she's about to do here. And the other Mary, the mother of James and Salome, came to the tomb to look at the grave, bringing what? Spices. They're bringing spices to do what?
To anoint the body.
So they're expecting to still see a what?
A body.
A dead body. All right. They're not thinking about resurrection, even though they were told.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. They were told. I don't know why.
They were told it was going to happen. But we sometimes we get out in our mind how we want to see things, and sometimes when you see things, no matter how much they should know, it's like this. But we see it a certain way, and sometimes you need something dramatic to happen before you go, oh, wait a minute, I've been thinking about this kind of off. I've been thinking about this wrong. It's more like this. And so, but right now, they're still thinking about, we got to go take care of this dead body. Right? But they're about to see something that's going to change the whole perspective. And God can do that.
Amen.
He can do something to you that's going to change your whole perspective,
Yes,
how you see things. All of a sudden, you see it different values. This used to be really important to me. Now it don't matter. This, I never really cared about this. Now this is important to me. I didn't think nothing about the Bible. Now the Bible is everything. I didn't think nothing about prayer. Now prayer is how I do. That's how I get along. I used to think about nothing about. I'm not trying to help out people. If somebody's weak and disadvantaged, I'm gonna take advantage of them. You shouldn't have been dumb enough to let me take advantage of you. If you're that dumb, then I'm gonna take advantage of you. That's how some people use. Jesus can come change it all around. I'm gonna help out people.
Amen.
I'm not taking advantage of nobody. I don't want to get ahead by making somebody else miserable. Exactly. I don't want to do that. Changes your whole perspective.
Yes.
That's what the Lord can do. All right. Well, that's what's going to happen here. They come in there with the spices, and they carrying a lot of weight. Those spices was heavy.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're carrying things that is not appropriate for what's really happening, you just got a lot of baggage and weight that you carry for no reason. If you just would listen to what the Lord said, they wouldn't have had to come there with no spices.
Nope.
But they're carrying all that stuff, carrying all that baggage, because they still think he's what? He's dead. Right? But if they had to really focus on the fact that he said he was going to rise, they would have been like, well, why do we need to carry spices if he's going to rise? But they did not have that conversation. So they're bringing the spices which they had prepared that they might come and anoint him. And certain others were with them. And they were saying one to another, who will roll away the stones? All right, so they're thinking about another problem. But that's how we are. You know, well, wait a minute. If you don't know how you're going to roll away the stone, why are you even walking up there? Why are you going up there? I'll give them credit for that. The fact that they didn't understand how they were going to roll away the stone, when in reality, that wasn't a problem anyway. But at least them thinking about that problem didn't stop them from going. They still went. I don't know how we're going to do it. I don't know, but we still got to go. I don't know how we're going to solve it when we get there. But guess what? That problem was already what? Solved.
No, that's right.
It was solved already. Who's going to roll away the stone for us from the entrance? But you know what? That's one thing I will say. That's what women will do sometimes. They ain't got all the measurements right. They ain't got all the stuff. But they just go, we're going to do this. And you look at it. Well, you want to put this over here? Yeah, but that's 10 feet tall and that's 9 feet. But I don't know. Just get it done.
Let's try it anyway.
And somehow, you say, well, you sit there like, and I would have never tried to put that there. But then you say, okay, well, you know what? If we remove that, lift that up a little bit, move that down, lift this in a little bit, we can get it. All right, we figured out a way to get it over there. Whereas the guys would have been like, I'm not even going to try. Why try? It ain't supposed to go there. It don't fit. Right. But then when you do the little stuff and you did that and you tweak it, next thing you know, you slide it and you go, you know what? It do look all right. That's how a lot of times women can get you to do something that you wouldn't have never thought about. But when it's all said and done, you're like, you know what? That ain't half bad. That looks actually pretty good. I'd have never thought of that because you know why? I wouldn't have went through all this cutting and lifting and shrinking and trying to make it to fit. We wouldn't have went through all that. But the woman, these women, they like, we're gonna go. I don't have no idea about the stone, but that's not gonna stop us from moving. Right. It says, and when the sun had risen, as they began to be early in dawn, and looking up, they saw the stone had been rolled back from the tomb. stone was already what? Rolled back. And so although it was extremely what? Large. This ain't easy to move. Right? But we know who moved it. The angel of the Lord came and what? And moved it, right? And so when they saw that, so what happened next? So when they saw that, and so she, Mary Magdalene, ran and came to Peter. So the minute she saw the stone rolled back, what did Mary Magdalene do? She ran back to tell him, because she thought somebody done went in there and took the body. Now she didn't go in and take a look. She just
turned around.
She just like, oh, the stone, they done took the body. So let me go get Peter. So that's her mindset. I'm gonna go back and get Peter. She ran to get Simon Peter and the other disciples whom Jesus loved, and said to them, they have taken away the Lord. Now that's what she thinks has happened. But is that what happened?
No.
She's come to the what? Wrong conclusion. You know why she come to the wrong conclusion? Because she didn't believe and trust still
What he had
said. You know? So she's sitting there, they're carrying the spices, worried about the stone. See that one of the problems that they were concerned about, the stone, was already solved. But then didn't see it as a problem. I mean, didn't see it as a blessing, saw it as a what? As a problem.
Right.
Oh, the stone's rolled. That means somebody must have came. Not thinking that, no, this is what God is doing. But sometimes we look at problems and we're thinking, Lord, why is this happening? Why is it? And really, God is saying, this ain't really a problem. If you just be calm and let me show you what's happening here. This is a blessing, and it's actually something you prayed about. They prayed, who's going to roll away the stone? Get up there, see the stone rolled away, now they jump to another problem. Do we do that a lot in our life? We do. And then if the Lord will say, well, if you would calm down just a minute, dry up your tears, stop feeling all bad and sorry for yourself. Remember way back when you were wondering about this particular issue? That's what I'm dealing with. I'm taking care of that. But I'm not doing it the way you thought it was going to happen. I'm doing it the way it should happen. Because God knows how to fix problems. He knows how.
Just the way it makes sense.
Exactly. And so, but now Mary Magdalene, she done carried all that weight. She was worried about the stone, see the stone, and got scared, ran back. Man, she tired. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Being worried can wear you out.
Yes,
It can take years off your life, having all that concern. So she ran back and told Peter that they've taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him. All right. So now that's her worry. She's scared to death that they done moved Jesus and stole his body, and she's upset. Now, am I saying that she shouldn't be? Well, she had reasons to not be, but guess what? She's acting like how we act sometimes. Right? So I'm not going to look at that and do, okay, she had major problems and issues. She's just being what? A person, a human being that takes situations and circumstances and sometimes adds the wrong conclusion to them and becomes all scared and worried. All right. So let's follow the story. Let's see what happens next. Let's look at story number 289 and let's see what's going on here.
Story 289. The women enter the tomb without Mary Magdalene. But when they entered the tomb, they did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. And it happened that while they were very perplexed about this, they saw a young man sitting at the right, wearing a white robe, and they were amazed. Behold, two men suddenly stood near them in dazzling apparel. And as the women were terrified and bowed their faces to the ground, the men said to them, "Why do you seek the living one among the dead?" And the angel answered and said to the women, "Do not be afraid or amazed, for I know that you are looking for Jesus, the Nazarene, who has been crucified. He is not here, for he has risen, just as he said. Come, see the place where he was lying. Behold, here is the place where they laid him. Remember how he spoke to you while he was still in Galilee, saying that the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and the third day rise again." And they remembered his words. But go quickly and tell his disciples and Peter that he has risen from the dead. And behold, he is going before you into Galilee. There you will see him, just as he said to you. Behold, I have told you. And they departed quickly and fled. And they returned from the tomb, for trembling and astonishment had gripped them. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. And with fear and great joy, they ran to report all these things to his disciples, the 11, and to all the rest. Now they were Mary Magdalene, and Joanna, and Mary the mother of James. Also the other women with them were telling these things to the apostles. And their words appeared to them as nonsense, and they would not believe them.
All right. Now look at what we got here.
Yeah, I see a word in there, 11. Oh, they hadn't restored the other one yet?
Not yet, nope.
Oh,
And so we see here in this story, it says, now Mary Magdalene, when she saw the tomb was open, she what? Jetted back to tell Peter. But now it says, but when they entered into the tomb, who's that? The other women.
Mm-hmm.
And did not find the body. So now they're worried. Mary Magdalene's fear that the body was gone, that somebody might have taken it. Now the other women may come up with the what? With the same fear. All right? Because look what they said. And they did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. And it happened that while they were very what? Perplexed. That means confused. What's going on? I have no idea what's happening. Very perplexed about this. A young man sitting on the right wearing white robe. That was one of the angels, right? And they were amazed. So they saw this young man that was sitting there wearing white robe, and they were amazed. And then it says, behold, two men suddenly stood near. So now there was already a person there, and then all of a sudden, boom, two other people all of a sudden show up. Now that's enough to startle you, isn't it? You ever turn around and see somebody when you didn't expect to see somebody? Like,
Yeah.
You kind of jump. It says, suddenly stood near them in dazzling apparel. It says, and as the women were what? Terrified. And bowed their faces to the ground. So they're just terrified, and they're like trying to be as humble as they can because they have no idea what's going on, because they're thinking, number one, we ain't got no business being here. I don't want nobody to think that we did anything. Every kind of thought going through their mind. Because what? They're perplexed. They're confused. Why? And so then the men said to them, asked them a question. And this is how the things are in the spirit. It says, why do you seek the living among the dead? You come into a dead place to find Jesus when he told you he was going to do what?
Rise.
He's going to rise. That's what we do sometimes. We're looking for a live answer in dead places. All right? We got to make sure that we don't allow that to be part of what we do. Why are you going to something that's dead, that's death, to find life? People that like when you testify so much about people that get hooked on drugs, that's death. But you go into a death situation to try to find what? Life. People that get hooked on pornography and visit and going to all these different illicit places. You're trying to find a real relationship, a alive relationship, but you're dealing with what? Death.
Yeah.
All right. There's so many ways that we can bring that out about how our society today tells us to chase after money, chase after wealth, chase after fame and fortune. But you're looking for, why are you chasing it? Because you think it's going to give you what? Life. But it's only going to bring what? Death.
Yeah.
Seeking the Lord is what you need. But he makes this statement, why do you seek the living among the dead? And the angel answered and said to the women, do not be afraid. Right, so he's letting you know. Remember I told you when we first started this, how many times we're going to hear that aspect of what? Don't be afraid. Because that's what we do. We do that really easy. We get what? We get afraid. Now, being afraid shows it in a lot of ways. Some people get afraid and they humble and just back down. Some people get afraid and they get attitude. Some people get afraid and they want to fight. Fear brings out a lot of different things in people.
Oh, yeah.
But it's all based upon what? Fear.
Fear.
I mean, you sneak up on a dog is scared. Dog may do one or two things: run or attack. All right. He says, "Do not be afraid or amazed, for I know that you are looking for who? Jesus.
Jesus of Nazareth.
In all your confusion and all your perplexed attitude and everything that you're doing, I know what you're doing. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to find Jesus. It's just that your ways are not his ways. You're going about it in a way that was not the way he told you to go about it. A lot of times that's what we do. We're going to find a way and we're going to figure it out. We're going to do it the way we think it makes best. But our ways are what? Not his ways. You're looking for Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He is not here, for he has risen, just as he said. All right, he's risen just like what he told you. He said this was going to happen. Come and see the place where he, the Lord, was lying. You can see where he was. Behold, here is the place where they laid him. All right, so they're showing you where he was, but he's not what? Not there now. And then they say this, which is important. Remember how he spoke to you while he was in Galilee. Remember what he said to you? And try to, saying that the Son of Man must be delivered into the hand of sinful men and be what? Crucified. And the third day rise again. And they remembered his word. So now they what? Now I'm kind of perplexed, but now that you're saying stuff, I'm just like, wait a minute. This is kind of making sense here now. It's starting to come together. They still don't understand it all, but now they're starting to, like his words that he said back then, starting to make a little bit more sense. But come quickly. But go quickly and tell his what? Disciples. And Peter. He points out Peter specifically, because remember, Peter was the one that did what? Denied him. Right? So let Peter know he's still one of the disciples. It's okay. Let's make sure you tell him. I don't know what y'all might think about Peter, but Peter is still one of the disciples, is what these angels are telling. You go tell his disciples and Peter that he has risen from the dead. All right? He risen from the dead just like he said he would. And behold, he is going before you into where? Into Galilee. So this is where y'all need to be. Not in this tomb, not in the grave. You need to be in the city. You need to be in Galilee. There you will see him. You're not going to see him in the grave. Right. You're going to see him in the city, in Galilee. You will see him just as he said to you. Behold, I have told you. Now, he said this to you, and you didn't understand it, nor did you remember it until now. And now I have told you. I became what? A witness to what Jesus already said. And they departed quickly and fled. And they returned from the tomb for trembling and astonishment had gripped them, and they were saying nothing to anyone, for they were what? Afraid. And with fear and great joy they ran to report all these things to his disciples, the 11. Right? And as you pointed out, it's the 11 because Judas was what? Had already been removed from them. Right? And so when he says reported to his disciples, the 11, that means they also are including who? Peter. Who denied Jesus. So he's still one of the what? Disciples. And to all the rest. Right? Because there were a lot of people that were following him as well. But they wanted to make sure that they distinguished out the disciples, including Peter. Now, there were Mary Magdalene and Joanna and Mary, the mother of James. So Mary Magdalene, as we remember, already ran back. Now the other women have what? Ran back. And so now they're all telling us what? The story. Okay? And so it says, also the other women with them were telling these things to the apostles. And these their words appeared to them as what? Nonsense. So the apostles, the disciples, are not what? They're not hearing it.
Right.
What are y'all talking about? Why y'all coming here with these crazy stories? And their words will, and it says, and they would not what? Believe them. Still in what? Unbelief. All right. Let's see, what do we got here? All right, we got enough time to do this next one. Let's do Peter and John at the tomb. All right, so we see here in story 290, we're going to take a look at that. When we look at this and we see what's happening, so the angel told them, get away from the dead places. Go into the city. This is where you're going to see him. And go tell these other individuals, the disciples, that that's where Jesus is going to meet them. They went and told them, they ain't believing it. All right? So, when you don't believe, when a guy don't want to, when you don't believe it as a guy, what do you want to do? I'm gonna go investigate it myself.
Yeah, you gotta show me.
Yeah. Let me go.
You
So
gotta show me something.
let's take a look and see what happens here. So now they ain't believing it. Let's take a look.
Story 290, Peter and John at the tomb. And then Peter rose and ran out, and the other disciple, and they were going to the tomb. And the two were running together, and the other disciple ran ahead faster than Peter, and came to the tomb first. And stooping, and looking in, he saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter also came following him, stooping and looking in. And he entered the tomb, and saw the linen wrappings lying there only, and the facecloth which had been on his head, not lying with the linen wrappings, but rolled up in a place by itself. So the other disciple who had first come to the tomb also entered then, and he saw and believed. For as yet they did not understand the scripture, that he must rise again from the dead. So the disciples went away again to their own homes, marveling at that which had happened.
All right.
Skipped one, did we?
What? No.
The report of the guard. Because we're at 291, right?
No, we're on 290. Yeah, we're at 290.
Okay.
So, what you see here is now Peter and John, Peter and John, they hear this story and they decide they got to do something. So it opens up. It says, and then Peter arose and ran out. So he's running. And Peter, this is how Peter always was.
We didn't skip one.
What do you think we skipped?
We started at
290.
Right.
That's the one we just did.
That's one we're on now.
That's the one we're on right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you're saying, I'm hearing you reading, and then Peter rose and ran out.
Right, that's
right.
290.
That's 291.
No, that's 290.
You made a misprint in your book, man. Or you're not seeing right.
Oh yeah, it must be. Yeah, so this book, it seemed like they must have did something. They translated. Yeah, it is different. All right. Well, at least you can follow along with it.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is interesting.
Just want to make sure I ain't going cuckoo.
Nope, you ain't crazy. All right, and so it says. And then Peter arose and ran out, and the other disciples, and they were going to the temple. It says, and there were two running together. So now Peter and John are out, and they're out what? Running. What I find interesting is that one of the things that John is going to point out is that he ran faster than Peter. It says, and they were running together, and the other disciple ran ahead faster than Peter, and came to the tomb what? First. All right. And stooping and looking in, he saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he did not go in. So what they saw is that cocoon-like wrapping. Because remember, they wrapped Jesus like, you know how like, it's almost like they the mummified. And so you see that kind of like an empty cocoon aspect looking, where they actually will see him, see the clothes that he was in, I should say, but not see him. Then Simon Peter also came following, stood and looking in, and he entered the tomb. So he went on in, and he saw the linen wrappings lying only, and the face cloth which had been on his head was lying with the linen wrappings, but rolled up in a place by itself. So it was like it was folded. He took it off his face and folded and put it. So it was actually, it didn't like fall to the ground. Mm-hmm. It was actually placed someplace. All right. And we know that was done by who? By Jesus.
Jesus.
All right. And it says, so the other disciple who had first came to the tomb also entered then and saw and what? And believed. All right. Now we're starting to get somewhere. He's starting to put two and two together. For as yet they did not understand the what? The scriptures. All right. They didn't understand what the words of the Lord was about. It says that he might rise again from the dead. So the disciples went away again to their own houses, marveling at that which had appeared. So now they're actually doing what? They're going, wow. He's gone. But I believe now. He said this. You know how sometimes you be like, wow, this is exactly what he said. He actually said this. You know? And now it's happening. All right. We're going to stop here, and we'll pick up on story 291.
Grab the pen and put a note that you're from here on out in your book. You're probably gonna be one story ahead.
Right, because your numbering.
So next Sunday when he says 291, you're gonna be on story 292.
Right, or you may have to jump up to the next area.
Yeah.